Welcome to the debate. As our source material explores the imminent integration of advanced AI into our daily lives, we're really facing an ancient question, but with entirely new technological stakes. Can AI actually optimize human happiness?
It's the ultimate design challenge, isn't it? But the source material makes it pretty clear that before we can even answer if AI can make us happy, we have to define what kind of happiness it should be pursuing. The choice of that objective function is, well, it's everything.
Absolutely. And this is really the line in the sand. I argue that AI's design mandate must be ambitious. It has to be to elevate humans beyond just material comfort toward meaning, connection, and self-actualization, what you'd call the path of eudaimonia. If we aim merely for comfort, I think we fail humanity's greatest potential.
And I come at it from a different angle. While eudaimonia is a noble target, I think AI should focus pragmatically and more reliably on establishing the necessary preconditions for any of those higher pursuits. That means the hedonic baseline, it means maximizing easily quantifiable comfort, safety, and security. It's the prerequisite work, and crucially, it's the only function where AI currently shows, undeniable reliability and scalability.
So let's look at why optimizing for simple pleasure is, well, it's a documented failure. Even within our source material, the central concept of the hedonic treadmill remains the starkest critique of purely hedonic goals. The evidence, and this includes those longitudinal studies on lottery winners, it shows that material success and maximal pleasure only offer a temporary spike before the individual inevitably regresses to their original baseline of contentment.
Economic and societal.
But that is precisely the point. AI must aim higher than resource allocation. We are moving into a post-scarcity future where physiological needs are basically guaranteed. So AI's objective has to align with Maslow's higher-order needs: belonging, love, esteem, and self-actualization. This is why Princess Ocula's intervention on the Isle of Happiness was so critical. She correctly sought to replace the purely hedonic AI that measured success in comfort with one that was dedicated to delivering individualized happiness that is, and I'm quoting, more experiential and purposeful, with love and authenticity. The goal isn't just to make people comfortable, it's to create pathways for purpose, like when the system offered Viktor Solokov the chance to leverage his specialized game designing skills to fulfill a deep desire for adventure.
I'm not convinced that simply identifying one desire like Solokov's translates into a reliable objective function for millions of people. I maintain that AI's most reliable and, frankly, necessary function remains establishing the essential foundations in Maslow's hierarchy, the physiological and safety needs. The source material maps out how the transition to plenitude, a world where the cost of essential goods approaches zero, is driven by practical, measurable technologies.
Such as the basic life card, the BLC.
Exactly. The BLC, the Basic Life Card, provides the automated fulfillment of essential needs: food, water, shelter, energy, transportation, healthcare. This is a foundational, measurable, and essential hedonic baseline. If AI fails to deliver this foundational stability, the abstract pursuit of eudaimonia is, well, it's irrelevant. Furthermore, the material itself concedes the difficulty of your approach. The effort to quantify and optimize abstract concepts like growth and purpose is called a work in progress by 2041. It's a massive, unsolved technological problem.
It is a challenge, yes, not a permanent roadblock.
But attempting to measure abstract human virtue inevitably leads to systemic flaws and manipulation. We saw this with the Moola virtual credit system described in the source material. Moola was explicitly designed to score and reward empathy and compassion, the very essence of eudaimonia, yet it was corrupted almost immediately. People chased accumulation and vanity, causing them to game the system by, coercing and exchanging feedback just to earn more moolah. This shows that the moment you try to externalize and quantify an internal virtue, you risk destroying its integrity.
And that brings us squarely to our first core debate, the role of that hedonic baseline in an era of plenitude. You argue it's a non-negotiable prerequisite, but I believe that maintaining this focus after scarcity is solved is actually dangerous.
The comfort has to be secured first. In a world facing rapid mass job displacement due to automation, AI must use mechanisms like the BLC to guarantee a comfortable, stable life. If that foundation of food security and housing stability is not guaranteed, people cannot, and frankly should not, be expected to go off and seek meaning. Removing the lowest rungs of Maslow's ladder makes any aspiration for the top rung impossible for the masses.
I would frame that differently. The BLC successfully addresses the problem of scarcity, I agree. The critical issue is what happens after that. The initial attempt at pure hedonic optimization on the sovereign island of Al Saida, under Crown Prince Mahdi, it failed precisely because the guests, who were guaranteed total comfort, were quickly back on that hedonic treadmill. They got bored, they demanded compensation, and they sought unconditional rescission of their agreements. That historical failure proves that prioritizing only comfort leads directly to complacency and the emergence of what the text calls a useless class.
But the goal of the BLC isn't to entertain. It's to provide stability and survival.
And survival without purpose is insufficient. The true value of AI in a post-scarcity world is not to maintain comfort, but to immediately shift the economic model to elevate human needs toward higher internal motivations. If the objective function remains fixed on maximizing comfort, we just create societal stasis. Whereas the eudaimonic approach forces a kind of dynamic self-improvement.
Stasis guarantees societal stability. What you're proposing, this high-fidelity, dynamic, eudaimonic optimization, it requires technological and ethical trade-offs that are so intrusive, they make stability seem, frankly, preferable. Which brings us to our second crucial point, the challenge and the potential hazard of measuring and optimizing subjective experience.
But AI can and must tackle the measurement problem, and the source material shows us the technology emerging to do it. The Isle of Happiness successfully employed advanced techniques like affective computing. This uses sophisticated tech, IoT devices, cameras, even biosensors embedded in the couch to monitor subtle physiological signals like heart rate, dopamine levels, and to analyze macro and micro expressions. This allows the AI to recognize genuine happy moments linked to purpose or connection and then tailor the user's future experience for individualized growth. That level of psychological assessment is just beyond human capability.
I am deeply unconvinced by that line of reasoning because the AI's ability to read human emotions at that level of granularity only makes the optimization system exponentially more intrusive and, I think, ethically dangerous. To achieve that kind of high-fidelity optimization, the system demanded access to the totality of a visitor's data: health records, financials, social media history, live audio and video streams. Even with proposed governance solutions like federated learning, which tries to decentralize the data processing, this constitutes giving a centralized AI entity the key to your soul, essentially.
But high-fidelity optimization requires high-fidelity data. We are discussing a revolutionary societal contract that's necessary for evolutionary progress.
And this is the result of that intrusive optimization. We already talked about moolah. That currency was an example of affective computing trying to quantify and reward abstract virtues, empathy, and compassion, and it failed because of human vanity and accumulation drives. The system was easily gamed. This demonstrates that even with perfect data, the difficulty of translating an abstract virtue into a concrete objective function for deep learning remains a massive technological hurdle, as analysts concluded in their review of the Golden Elephant project.
But the failure of moolah was due to a design flaw in its reinforcement mechanism. It rewarded accumulation, which led to vanity rather than intrinsic satisfaction. That is a prototyping error, I would argue, not a fundamental rejection of the eudaimonic goal. The goal is to refine the objective function to reward the feeling of purpose, not the quantifiable score of compassion.
That refinement is exactly the problem. The complexity is just too high. If AI struggles to reliably measure love and belonging, how could it possibly guide something as complex as self-actualization, which sits at the very apex of Maslow's hierarchy? And this leads us to our third point, the viability of AI guiding us toward meaningful work and purpose in a world without utility.
Meaningful work is an essential component of self-actualization.
Sure, but the blurring of the lines between a made-up job, practical training, and a real job, as detailed in the Omega Alliance Sinkhya partnership, it raises serious questions. Humans are increasingly doing simulated work tasks that don't necessarily generate actual economic value, simply to maintain what the text calls a shred of dignity. If the work is simulated and its primary function is psychological maintenance, is that truly eudaimonia? Or is it just a sophisticated subsidized maintenance of the hedonic baseline?
I think the blurring of job types and the immense need for retraining a massive number of displaced workers is an inevitable social and economic trend, regardless of the ultimate happiness objective. The made-up job scenario is an emergent necessity born from the fact that automation has stripped away repetitive labor. We have to ensure people can still learn by doing and enter professions that require essential human soft skills.
But does necessity equate to meaning? The work might be necessary for learning, but if it lacks fundamental utility, if the AI could just do it better and cheaper, it risks becoming a performance for dignity, which I think undermines genuine purpose.
I disagree, fundamentally. The complexity of the post-automation world provides the very motivation for the eudaimonic mandate. AI's core purpose in this framework is not to dictate meaning, but to refine the entire economic and social model to be both inclusive and aspirational. By guiding the displaced workforce toward what AI cannot do, creativity, critical thinking, compassion, passion, it is fulfilling its highest purpose. It's using technology to promote human excellence, enabling us to achieve our potential, and thereby fulfilling Maslow's highest level. This approach is about evolutionary survival through self-improvement, not just existing comfortably in a gilded cage.
But that gilded cage ensures survival. The journey to the top of the pyramid is fundamentally pointless if we are unstable or starving or constantly under threat of displacement. We have to secure the base before we can reliably attempt to optimize the subjective apex.
And the comfortable life secured by technology becomes meaningless if it leads to boredom, despair, and a society of the useless class. The highest virtue of AI is helping us to find and attain our highest human values.
Look, we both agree that AI presents an unprecedented transformative opportunity for human flourishing. But the path toward maximizing subjective, internal well-being, eudaimonic happiness, remains fundamentally fraught with complexity. The necessity of a stable, comfortable, and measurable existence, the hedonic baseline, it just cannot be bypassed. Efforts to quantify and optimize the deeply abstract must proceed with extreme caution, as the material demonstrates that the risks of developing flawed, manipulative, and intrusive systems are just far too high. We must prove reliability before we sacrifice security.
And the debate over hedonic versus eudaimonic objectives highlights the defining challenge of the AI era. How do we translate our deepest human values into quantifiable terms? While the implementation of eudaimonic optimization is challenging and, yes, remains a work in progress, the necessity of AI systems pushing us beyond mere comfort toward purpose, meaning, and authentic connection is clear. If humanity is to truly self-actualize and avoid the pitfalls of a post-scarcity, post-labor world, we have to continue to explore how AI can measure and guide these higher virtues, refining the objective function, even if it demands revolutionary new approaches to data, privacy, and the social contract.
An open mind is necessary, of course, but so is a clear understanding of the immediate, tangible needs that guarantee dignity and stability.
We leave the listeners to contemplate whether the greater danger lies in aiming too low and creating a comfortable stasis, or attempting to measure the immeasurable in pursuit of true human purpose.